Καλησπέρα σε όλους. Καλώς ήρθατε στο πρώτο Plum Talks event που διοργανώνει Plum Fintech. Σας ευχαριστούμε όλους πολύ για τη συμμετοχή σας και ελπίζουμε να περάσουμε παρέα την επόμενη ώρα με μια δημιουργική συζήτηση. I will now continue in English. Hello everyone, welcome to the first ever Plum Talks series that's hosted by Plum Fintech. We're very glad to see you here today and I hope you all enjoy it. We all know that when we hear startups and digital disruption, Athens is not the first place that come out to our minds. Though we have some interesting stats that make us believe that Greece is gradually going up. Market professionals now put the valuation of Greek-owned startups alone at 3.5 billion euros, up to 2.5 billion euros in 2019. Imagine that 8 years ago that was zero. The Greek government has put in place for the first time a triple set of tax incentives targeted exclusively at foreign tax residents who are considering redomiciling to Greece. It's a quite ambitious plan addressed to a diversified audience. High net worth individuals, retirees wanting to spend time in Greece, expats, including the brain drain generation, and the work from anywhere crowd. But what does Athens need to do to take over from London, Lisbon, or Berlin as a destination for young tech workers from across Europe? That's why we're here today to discuss how this is changing and if Athens can be the next digital hotspot. To help us ask these pressing questions, we have a great panel lined up for you today. We are joined by two well-known specialists in Greek startups, Kostas Ketsietzis, journalist at Capital.gr. Kostas has worked as a permanent or external collaborator in leading magazines and websites. From 2020, he's working as a journalist at Capital.gr, one of the leading economic media in Greece. Welcome, Costa. Thank you for being with us. George Kourkoutas is also here with us today. He's editor-in-chief at Startupper magazine. For the last 20 years, George has been writing for mobile tech and business tech in magazines and online. Startupper Mag is the largest and online magazine for the Greek startup and technology scene. Thank you both for accepting our invitation and supporting this initiative.
Well, thank you.
Along with Kostas and George, here is today Victor Trokoudes, CEO and co-founder of Plum Fintech, and Christos Karafeizis, CEO and founder of Gaspardesk, who will help us to reveal all these answers. Victor co-founded Plum beginning of 2017 in London. Before that, he was employee number 5 at TransferWise. That's a fintech unicorn today. Plum is powered by automation and acts like an autopilot for your money. With smart spending and analytics and budgeting tools, it helps you set your financial destination. It gets you there safely, so you don't need to remember things like setting money aside or getting the best deal for your house for your household bills. Christos, who is based now in San Francisco, so I should say good morning, was working at Microsoft for 6 years before he found Gaspardesk 2 years ago. Gaspardesk is an AI-based software that helps company manage and automate all their employee internal IT support requests on one platform. Welcome and thank you both for being here. I'll now give the floor to George Kourkoutas from Startupper.gr and Startupper magazine.
Okay, thank you, Olympia. I think I shall start with one more general question to both founders and CEOs, especially to Victor, which Plum has already presence here in Athens. I'd like to ask, what are how do you see Athens? What are the biggest challenges of being here and have a base here in Athens? Also, what needs to change or to do to attract more startups in Greece, and the biggest challenges also for being here? What must be changed?
Yeah, exactly. No, I think. Look, I think when we chose Athens, right? I guess I was coming from the background of TransferWise, where we had a huge office in Estonia, right? And I felt that there's a benefit to be in another place where you can attract different talent pool, right? Albeit at like a lower cost for you as the company, but also there's a lower cost for the people living there, right? So I guess that's always the motivation. And, we wanted to do it in a country where I guess, we spoke the native language, right? So that's why we chose Greece, right? So I think the challenges really with Greece, I think is really, it's a bit like kind of a reputational / truth, right? That the tax system is let's say complex, right? And I think that, and that the way to operate in the country, has this reputation that it might be quite complicated with like paperwork and even like physical papers, like, small stuff like that, right? Like being able to establish a company quickly and cheaply are quite important. Like I think barriers when the smaller you are, right? Which is the case for the majority of startups, right? So I think there has to be done. Work has to be done kind of to make the perception of Athens as a place that's like digital, where people can set up easily, and where the tax jurisdiction is kind of streamlined and kind of stable, right? I think those things are very important. The other thing that I think is not a bad thing, but I feel like it's very specific, but the way that the tax system is structured for employees, right, and for companies, that like the more someone earns, the less, the bigger and bigger the burden is on the company in terms of like additional costs, right? I think it's not a problem that the company pays that money, but I also think it limits the ambition of people to kind of pursue the not the career ladder, but to progress from a salary perspective, because that when you ask the employee for higher salary, you're also there's also another like 30-40% that employee has to pay as additional taxes. So it kind of like limits the benefit to the employee, and they don't see the incentive. So it kind of like dampens, I think, not the ambition, but the potential of people, right? So I think, so for me, the tax system to be beneficial, to be able to give people, to be clear, right? But also to be able to reward employees, and that the rewards go to employees, right? As their salaries expand, I think is one thing that I think would make a big difference and would attract people to work and be like fully employed in Greece. I think these are the things that, like, as we navigated, were the most, let's say, shocking for us, if I can say.
Maybe Christos want to add something about?
Yes.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me. So yeah, we're like not as let's say old startup as Plum. We're like very new entrants. Actually, we have a small presence in Greece. We opened our Greek subsidiary in end of August, early September. But so we have a limited experience on what the presence in a different country looks like. In my opinion, Athens, Victor covered most of the points. Athens is, in my opinion, Athens is a scene that is up and rising. And I think some of the challenges that exist is, as he said, like lots of bureaucracy to open a subsidiary. I remember it took us about 35 to 40 days from the time we initiate the process to open a subsidiary until we get everything set up, bank accounts and all that stuff. Where here, when I compare here in the US, it takes about 1-2 days to take everything set up. So definitely there's a room there. And of course, less taxes when it comes to employers paying to the government. that can be helpful, because those benefits will be distributed to the employees, and then we can hire more people that can accelerate the growth of the company. In my opinion, we're in a good state as a Greek startup ecosystem. We had last year some big exits. And I think as we get more of those stories, we'll attract more capital, more VCs, more angel investors, and that will also attract more companies incorporating in Greece and leveraging some of the resources and the talent that exists there.
And I suppose Athens can be the starting or the entrance point for a fintech startup like Plum to enter in EU operations, or
yeah, I mean, yeah, with Brexit now, like we're a fintech, right? So there's the extra requirement to be somewhere and be regulated, right? And yeah, and you need to choose a European location to do that, right? We didn't happen to choose Athens for that, as we discussed kind of before the call started. We chose Cyprus because it has a bigger scene of regulated businesses in the investment space, which is what we're doing. But again, I think there's room to be, a lot of room to be improved there for the regulator. Like, again, it's kind of the processes to get established, right? To be inviting and fast for a young company to operate. So I think a lot of regulators across Europe have done initiatives to attract startups there, right? Lithuania has done some initiatives, Cyprus has done, Malta has done. So I think it'd be great if Athens did as well, right? Because I mean, we're forgetting as to why we're all going to Athens, right? I just want to make sure we mention that, right? There's a lot. Athens is amazing, right? It's like one of the biggest cities in Europe, right? It has 6-7 million people, right? It's a huge city, right? There's a lot of universities with very technical people, right? And as the ecosystem evolves, and as Christos just said, like, the more exits there are, the more people understand that the path of being an employee at a startup is a very it can be a successful path, etc. And that's how the ecosystem blossoms, right? You want more good people that have good experiences with startups that scale, and then those people move on and do their own companies. And the fact that we can all go to the beach or the islands is what makes Athens unbeatable, right? So that's why we moved there, right? Because we think there's the raw ingredients are there, basically. Great.
Victor, you mentioned about attracting talents. It is a hot issue here in Greece. There's a scarcity, let's say, to find the right people for the right job. What about finding and attracting talents in Athens? Is there a shortage, and how do you deal with it? Or teleworking is the ultimate solution, and now
I'll give my experience, and then I'd be curious to see how Christos has found it, right? I mean, I think, look, everyone complains that there's a shortage of tech talent, right? So I think anywhere you are, you will feel that shortage. You can find good tech talent in Greece. What would be great to have more companies that have scaled, right, in Greece. So those employees have seen organizations go from 5 people to 200 people. That's a very unique phase, and you gain a lot of experience, right? So we'd like to have more companies like that. And that's why we think the incentives that the government has done, right, to get people back are a way to accelerate getting the people that have seen that growth back into Greece, right? So we're very hopeful to attract people in Greece that have had that experience in a London or a San Francisco or New York, right? Where they've seen that phase of 5 employees to 200 to 1,000, and make those people core members of our team. But we find people. That's why we're there. That's why we have a team of around 40, and that's why we continue to invest. We think there's potential, and these incentives of the government are very positive, I think. I don't know, Christo, how you found it.
Yeah, so for us in Athens, in Greece, actually, in general, we're mainly focused on hiring engineers. In my opinion, and my observations are very limited so far, but I can see that it's not so much the shortage of talent. I think sometimes we need to educate and train people that want to join startups to have the right mindset. It's all about the mindset. And when I say a mindset, I mean that when you join an early startup, when it's like 5-10 people, it's different when joining a company that has like 200, 500 employees. So in that, like one of your incentives shouldn't be only the salary. You should be only interested in getting some stocks of the company, because actually those are the things that will drive up the value. From my discussion so far, I have found that most people, maybe because, again, as I said at my previous point, this is the time now we had our first exits, big exits. This is the time that the people understand that, yes, you don't have to be a co-founder of the company. Even you're like an early employee, you can still have some good track record, and the stock that you actually get can mean something instead of like something that you won't end up using and get some type of compensation. Another thing also it's very important is, as Victor said, the government has put some incentives in the right direction. And also it's really important the timing now, because Greece went 11 years ago, 11 years ago, a big brain drain. Now it's like that we're gonna get those people back because of remote work, because remote work is here to stay, right? It's not something temporary due to COVID. I strongly believe that even when we end up with this pandemic, people and employees for many companies will still allowed to work from anywhere, and that's another reason why Greece will become more attractive, because they can work from Greece also as well.
Great. Because my next question is a little bit more generic. Maybe we should switch to Kostas, or to want to add about for his questions.
If Kostas is ready and wants to take the floor.
Yeah, sure. Okay, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to have a good discussion with people who do things, who create value. I would like a little bit to build up from the previous questions from George. So we spoke about tax incentives in Greece. Things have happened in the last 2 years, but well, in order to have a thriving startup ecosystem, you also need to have big businesses to support the startups. From the demand side, or by providing clients and expertise. Do you believe that Greece has enough business forces to support the development and the growth of the Greek startup ecosystem? Victor?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it depends what kind of a product you're building, right? So I tend to believe of a general rule that people that go to do startups have, like, a unique idea, and the reason they're doing it out on their own is not because a big business necessarily has an idea and they want some like a small startup to execute on it, right? So I believe the big businesses are built by people that are like trying to like fix a problem, and to be honest, like I don't think the large businesses are the right ones to support the ecosystem, right? I think typically what you see is that, like, at least what we've seen in the UK is that you have the investors, right, that come in, and some businesses are built that like challenge the incumbent players, right? And only at the second wave do the big players then build, I don't know, innovation centers, or like, or like very large companies will build an internal investing fund that will give money to the startups. And from my experience, it's very difficult for large businesses to actually innovate, right? It sounds very cliche, and everyone would think like, well, why? But like, I've talked to business owners. It's just everything is more expensive to do when you're in a large business, right? And that's why a lot of businesses, I think the model that they followed, right, is to just supply money to people with a good idea. And so supply some expertise, supply some money, right? But they've ended up setting a lot of times internal VCs. So to be honest, I think big businesses should find ways to encourage people to take that leap. They should encourage maybe their employees to leave the big business and go do something of their own, right? I think that would be a great incentive to start the thing. But I don't think what's lacking in Greece is large industries that support the ecosystem. The best people to sell to, let's say, from Greece, or companies outside of Greece, or acquire users outside of Greece as well, right? I don't think you should be focused on the local ecosystem.
Yeah. Christos?
Yes, so I think Victor pretty much covered that part. Again, it's a twofold. When you say about business forces, I separate in two categories. One is the capital. We need capital, so we need VCs, and also we need a lot more angel investors to start supporting the whole ecosystem. That's one thing. The second thing is that in terms of Greece, at least for our product, which is like a typical B2B, so we sell at the prices. There are some, not as many as you can find here in the US or elsewhere in the Europe. But the most important thing is like those businesses to have, again, to be less risk averse and to not be on the second or third wave of technology adoption of new innovations, right? Because usually what we see, they see that, oh, this happened in the US and then comes to Europe or Israel, right? We should start innovating in technology by starting playing with new technology first in the companies there, and then we can move that technology out, ideally out of Greece and in Europe and US, not the other way around.
Okay, I see, but that's pretty clear. But we had, you mentioned some things beforehand, but I would like to, we've seen over the last 2 years some steps in the process of supporting the Greek startups by new tax incentives, or even by the Elevate Greece platform that would give some new tools for to support the startups. But I would like to ask you, and I again have to say that it's pretty. What is the one thing that must be done if you have to choose one thing and one thing only? But what must be done in order to have a greater startup ecosystem here in Greece, and some growth and more success stories, as we said. Victor, what is the one thing that must be done? I am sure that there are many, but what would be the one thing that you choose?
I think you need to find a way, which I think is the direction that this is going, but to incentivize. I think the fastest way to succeed is to incentivize people that have done it before from abroad to have huge incentives to set up in Greece. That's what I would say.
So you have to attract more human capital, and especially Greek expats, people who have left the country to come back and work here, right?
Work or start their business in Greece, like give some crazy incentive that if your business is registered in, I don't know, I'm just brainstorming now, but something that makes you like, I should seriously, especially if I'm Greek, right? I should seriously consider setting up the business in Greece because it's so beneficial for me.
Christos?
In my opinion, yeah, I agree. There are many points, but if I would choose one, would be education. And when I say education on like the mindset and the fact that it's okay to take risks and it's not a bad thing if you fail, right? But startups, setting up startups or working in startups or founding startups, it's all about taking some big risks. And we have to educate people that only if you take some big risks, you can get some big rewards. And also the fact that beyond the risk, here in the US, if you fail, it's not a bad thing. You can do the second or third one. We need to change the mind more. You didn't do well and then you can't do anything else, right? We need to encourage people to educate and take risks and understand how actually startups work.
Well, if I may, I believe that what Chris proposed is a little bit more difficult than giving some incentives, because we have to change the culture and change the way that we view things here in Greece. So I would also like to ask, we're talking about Athens, but we see that there are some other cities here in Greece, especially Thessaloniki, but also Patra, who has some great innovative companies. Do you believe that, or maybe have you thought to expand in other cities? Maybe skip Athens, and if you propose to another company, maybe to go to another city in Greece.
Christos, you want to go first?
Christos, let's start from you now, because I always start with Victor.
Yes, so in our case, we don't see our presence in Greece only in Athens. We are a remote first company. Actually, one of our employees now is based in Chania. We have other people in Athens. For us, mainly because we focus on R&D and hiring engineers, for us, it's about having a good internet connection, and that's it. So we're location agnostic. And that gives more flexibility for people to join. They don't have to move from Patra to Athens or change location. They can work from anywhere in Greece.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we have one engineer in Iraklio, Yorgos, but then everyone else is in Athens. And we're not. I think like. Yeah, we're not remote first, right? So we're still, despite the pandemic, we hope we'll have an office. So I guess we're still a bit too young to have multiple locations within Greece, right? Maybe someday, but for now I guess Athens is the biggest pool of people, so we're focused on Athens. But we wouldn't be opposed to someone. I think, especially with the pandemic, we're clearly becoming a lot more flexible as to where people are working. But we still want to have the ability for people to meet quite regularly and kind of brainstorm on things.
Just to add to that point, you can see also here in San Francisco, many companies such as like Facebook, Twitter, they have already announced that they're going to be remote first. So yes, I agree with you. I like also being to the office, but given the pandemic, I think one of the things that will stay after the pandemic is remote work in terms of, but I think the ideal situation would be, for me, in my opinion, would be like a hybrid model, meaning that, yes, and that's easier to manage when you have like, I guess, 30, 40 people, and then it will be less difficult when you scale more. It's like work from home and then do some meetings like once or 2 months at the office just to do more, better brainstorm. But I think moving forward, the direction will be the hybrid model. That's why you can see here in the US that many leases are still like empty and many companies actually are leaving. That's why they say that there will be a rise on the co-working space because people would allow employees to just go for like once or 2 months to go to space and get some time together in person.
Nice. Sorry, Olympia, we have some questions from the audience, I see. Should I read them if that's okay, because we have some...
I think you can go on with your questions, and in the end, depending on the time, we can go with the Q&A. So if everyone from the audience has a question, feel free to drop it on the Q&A tab.
There are some great questions there, so I think that they should be answered. I don't know if George wants to take over now.
Yes, I would like to ask Christos to tell us a little bit more about Gaspardesk, about service. And I would like to ask both Victor and Christos about the customers' profiles. Some numbers, if you can give us, how do they use the service?
Shall I go first or you, Victor?
Yes, Christos, yes. So tell us a little bit about Gaspardesk, because and your customers.
So we're a B2B SaaS platform that we use AI to help companies automate, manage, and augment their help desk operations. Our customers are usually companies more than 100 employees. Usually we find that this is the size that companies realize that they need to have some tools to manage internal employee IT support requests. And what we do is that we integrate with the most popular systems out there, such as like Atlassian, Atlassian's products like Jira Service Management, Confluence, Freshservice. Now we're going to do these quarters 2 more add-on integrations with Zendesk and ServiceNow, which are very popular vendors in our space. And what we do is like the fact that with remote work now, the entry points of employees reporting their IT support issue has changed, right? Most times, if you're at the office, you would just walk into your favorite person in IT and ask her or him to help it. Now, since we're like most people are remote, usually you do that through Slack or Teams. So we are the connector between the big ticketing vendors, Slack and Teams, and then we help automate some of the repetitive tasks, which can result to up to 40% of the tickets resolved within a few seconds without having to assign to a human agent. As a result, employees get back productivity because they don't have to wait up to 72 hours for a simple ticket to get resolved. And also for the companies, they can realize huge cost savings because they can understand what's actually the headcount needed to manage those requests, and then they can move to this headcount that it's not needed to do more productive things instead of resetting passwords and giving people access to group mails or giving them access to software.
I see. Victor, can you please tell us some data about your customers' profiles, uses?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, Plum is, the idea behind Plum is that we want to help people automate their finances so that effectively they have more money with less effort, right? And what that means is that people connect their bank account to Plum. We see what goes in and out of their bank account, their transactions, and then the first thing we do is we start automatically saving money for them. Then we give them investment options so they can start investing their money so that it grows. And then the last thing we do is we monitor their bills and other large expenses, and we plug into alternatives to recommend to them to switch to, and we make that switch very seamless, right? So I guess all in all, we believe that people can have like 10% more money in year one and 20% money over their lifetime, right? And I guess we're established in the UK where we have more than 1.3 million users, and now we're launching the service across Europe, where we think there's equal and almost a greater need for the product, really, because the investment options are very limited.
Great. And are you going to see Plum services in Greece soon? Or not?
No. As part of Europe, Greece is on the roadmap. The constraint is simply that the open banking, so the ability to get the data in Greece is not yet integrated, let's say, by our partner, but we're working to find a way to resolve that so that we can have that data coming into Plum and then open up the product to Greeks. Yeah, it's quite annoying that we're not in Greece.
Okay, thank you. Libya?
So we have some questions. If George,
Costa, you can start. You can pick up 2 to 3 questions, and then George can continue.
Okay, I will start with one question. Someone asks, do you foresee London losing its title as the fintech center of Europe? I think that goes mainly to you, Victor, I think. So,
what the question is, if we see London as the fintech center of Europe?
To lose its title as the fintech center of Europe.
Look, I don't think so. Is my quick answer, and the reason I don't think so is that the reason some place becomes a center is because there's concentration of knowledge, right, about a specific sector, right? And that's how it becomes a center. Because, if you look at London, you have lots of companies that have, let's say, achieved unicorn status. You have TransferWise, you have GoCardless, you have Funding Circle, you have Monzo, you have Revolut, you have etc. So, I mean, I think it's just a function of how many large companies. You have Plum, obviously, but it's a function of how developed the ecosystem is, and the people that leave those companies end up typically starting other businesses in the same domain, right? So I think it's really hard to compete with that, right? Brexit probably is not positive for it to retain its place as a fintech center, right? And I think long term there will be effects, because you need to choose do you operate in London or in UK, where you have a 60 million market, or you operate out of Europe, where you have a 300 million person market, but it's not exactly one market. You need to localize your product, etc. So I think it's not going to be an immediate change, right? I think it'll be a gradual change that will happen.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to the question from David, who writes, I'm a Brit, he's a serial entrepreneur for 30 years. He says more failure than success, but enough success that I'm still going. He moved to Athens 12 months ago. And he writes, obviously crazy times right now. But what does Athens have by way of networking infrastructure for people such as us, as entrepreneurs and all that? So if you can answer that, maybe, I don't know. Well, Victor, you're, I think, in London. Christos, you're in San Francisco. But I don't know if you have some suggestions from for Athens networking or something like that.
I mean, I'll say something. I mean, I think there are events, there are meetups. Clearly, during this time, they've been limited, right? I think we as a company want to do more. We've failed to do so because of COVID in a way. But this is kind of the beginning of these virtual events that maybe becomes easier to do networking. I really don't have a fantastic solution, but I think people are quite open to meet, right? So yeah, there are meetups, but feel free to reach out to people. I think people are quite open in meeting, right? People that are running other companies. I don't know, even Olympia, if you follow the event space a bit more. I don't know if you have a suggestion, or Christos, but I think it comes in the responsibility of the companies as well, like ourselves at some point, to start doing more to bring the community together. So we've done a barbecue a few years ago, but we haven't done it since.
Yeah, actually, I think that's a question better for you guys, George and Kostas, that you live permanently in Greece, to answer. In my opinion, to David, if I remember correct, let's connect through LinkedIn, or and then we can have a quick Zoom call, and then I can suggest some of my local friends in Athens you can meet. Unfortunately, now everything is in lockdown, but I think when things open, you can go for a coffee or walk. And as Victor said, most Greeks, I know, they're very open to meet people for a coffee, and especially when it comes to discussion around startups and entrepreneurship. So happy to have you in Greece, and happy to introduce you to our network.
Great. There are some also. Yes, there are some questions about your employees. People ask how, when it comes to attract new talents, the new startups, how they compete with bigger companies like N26 and Revolut. Another question, probably from the same attendee, is how startups manage their employees. What motivation you apply to your employees? Can you please elaborate?
Christos, you want to go, and then I can go.
Yes.
I think the first one, because the competitors, I think, are fintech companies, right? So I think it goes mostly to you. And I think when we attract new talent, for me, it depends on the stage that you are. So you have to be very transparent, and especially when you're like a very early stage company, you need to have alignment on the goals and what's the vision. And I think the best way to attract someone, if we cannot compete monetary wise in terms of salary, is giving them more stocks. That's what we can do in an early stage company.
Look, I think to follow up on that, like for us, I think there's two things I would say, right? The first thing is, well, it sounds a bit lame, but you sell the dream, right? But you know, I've lived the dream through TransferWise in the sense that I've seen something grow a lot, right? And I think you need to sell what your business is doing, and to be honest, you need to find the people that really care about what you're doing, right? So, you know, and I think if someone joins you because they really care about what you're doing, you know, let's say salary becomes less important, right? But it's not all about salary, right? I think the one thing that we make sure that people understand, and I think it's really important for people that are looking for jobs, is that, like, you know, the one thing that you really gain from joining an early stage startup is that I think you see that very unique phase from going from a company with, like, let's call it a handful of people, like 5 people, to potentially a company with anything like close to 100. I think that phase, you know, there's very few people, or there's very few opportunities for you to experience that. And I think that experience is very valuable throughout your life for your next move, or if you want to build your own company, etc. So, you know, we like to attract people that potentially want to build their own thing, right? And also people that are looking to really believe in what we're doing, and they think this is the only place where they can, you know, actually really build the service that our vision is to build, right? So, to be honest, for me, salary is a filter as to how much people actually believe in what we're doing, right? If all you care about is that, yes, there are plenty of other companies, right? But if you want these other experiences, you can only find them in companies at a particular stage and focus.
I agree with Victor. Great point. And also, one of the questions I ask is, like, it's not how we attract, it's also what you want as an individual, as a professional. How do you see yourself? It's a little bit cliche, but that's the reality. How do you see yourself 5 years from now, 10 years from now, right? If you're in a situation in your life that you're not willing to take risks and you want to have like a steady job with no ups and downs, then probably joining a startup is not the right choice. But if you want eventually gain more experience, or as Victor said, start your own company, like, salary is not what will make you a better professional, because at the startup you can get a lot of experience that can help you land your next gig, either that's like starting your own company or getting a role in another company more senior. And you can only do that by joining an early stage startup and getting some of those ups and downs that we go, and the experiences that you're gonna gain.
Okay, I think that we have many questions, but I think that we're a little bit on time right now. I don't know if you have...
if you want to go on for 5 more minutes, it should be fine.
Okay.
To answer 2 more questions.
George, do you want to ask anything?
There's a question from Spiros. What do you think is Greece in terms of digitalization of services, such as opening business bank accounts remotely, as it happens in other countries in the UK, or even setting up a limited company in minutes and online? I think we're doing well, Spiro. Except N26 and Revolut, National Bank of Greece and Alpha Bank, I think they're offering opening a bank account to new customers online. Also, you can set up a Nike in 1 hour, and in the next, I think in the next month, you can do it online also. This is my answer. Don't know.
Okay.
Pandemic seemed to have helped a lot in these things to accelerate.
So I would like to step in and ask one more question, maybe close without. Christos and Victor, can you tell us about your next plans? What are we gonna see from you and your companies in the next year or so? Christos?
For us, it's about growing more. Definitely, we are happy. Again, we have very limited presence in Greece now, 3 employees, but the plan is to invest more. And by next summer by fall 2021 to have increase our workforce and get more employees here on the engineering side. And also for us, since we're like very early stage company, to bring more brand awareness as a company, so people can start know about us and the value that we get by using our products and our services.
Victor?
For us, the next year is the focus. I guess there's 3 main things. The first is to establish ourselves in Europe as a product, right? So we're launching in France, Spain, and Ireland. We want to, establish ourselves in those markets, and also, as we said, Greece as well, and the whole of Europe, really, right? That's number 1. The second is to launch our trading product, right? So to allow people both in the UK and Europe to have access to stocks, right? We have more of a wealth product now, but also to offer stocks. And then the final one is that we're looking to start building our own card that will attach to the Plum product and will be tailored to how you can like automatically budget and save your money and basically maximize the money's return that you're not using to spend, right? So those are the 3 core things that we're building. And as part of that, we need to build up our, how many people we have working for Plum in both, London, Greece, and now Cyprus. So but those are the product things that we're doing.
So both of you are planning to expand in the near future, right? Pandemic or no?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you. I think that if George doesn't have any other question, maybe we can pass to Olympia.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we're done. I would like to thank all of you a lot for being here today. I think it was a fruitful discussion. I hope all the attendees also enjoyed and took something beneficial from it. And it's amazing to see all these new companies focusing and investing in other European countries such as Athens. It's very promising that the startup and fintech scene is changing, but there's still a lot of work to be done. Plum is expanding its teams due high growth and now having 3 cities, Athens, London, and Cyprus. And launching its services in Europe with a mission to build Europe's next ultimate app of money management. While Gaspardesk is promising to revolutionize the way that companies manage and automate internal IT support for the employees, all in a single platform with no hassle. And we're waiting to see even more great things both from Plum and Gaspardesk. Both companies are also hiring in Greece, so you can check the open roles on their websites. And thank you all for participating today, and stay tuned on our social media as we'll be back next month with another topic. This was the first Plum series. Thank you.